Hello guys, so today we're going to be making House like Nora and Pure. Today we're going to be going over her track Come With Me. This is an absolute classic of hers. It has millions of views. If you want the full project, you can get that on my Patreon. Here is a snippet of what we're going over today.
Do you come with me? Do you come with me?
Firstly, we've got the piano. I've done this just with the Ableton grand piano. So if you go to your search bar and search grand, go to instruments, go to simpler, grand piano. Drag that in here. I've increased the hardness to about 73. I've increased the glue. So the glue is essentially compression. So it's just binding it all together. So the quiet parts aren't as quiet. And yeah, it's all more matching level. So yeah, it just makes it sound nice and full. We've also got this brightness, which is brighten it up a bit. So if I lower that, it's a lot darker. Too much, sounds a bit cheesy. There's a sweet spot about 91. Yeah, so that's what we got for that. The intro as well, as you can hear. We've got this auto filter taking out the lows, and this is slowly coming in. This then happens in the second breakdown as well. After that, we've got this low filter. So just before the drop, I'm taking out all of the low end. So anything below about 200 Hertz is getting completely cut out. This basically means that when the drop does come in, with the kick as well, all the bass elements make the track drop a lot harder. So yeah, it's quite essential that you take out those. Yeah, so if you hear that all together, everything's coming up, rising. Great. We've then got this OTT, so you can download this for free from Serum website. So yeah, it's made by the same people as Serum, the famous synth, and you can download this OTT for free. It's basically a multi-band up-down compressor. Don't know what the fuck it means, but it makes it sound good, I'll tell you that. Skrillex uses it on like every channel of his track, so if you want to sound like Skrillex. But yeah, we've dialed in the settings, so we've lowered the depth because it's originally on 100, so we've gone to about 23. Anywhere around this mark doesn't matter. I've boosted the high end, boosted the medium, and I've even boosted slightly the low end just to make it feel a bit fuller in the low end. Lowered the the upward compression and lowered the downward. Yeah, without it, let's hear it. Oh. So it's kind of dull, kind of flat, boxy. Gives it so much more presence and power in the mix. Yeah, OTT is great on pianos. Most people use OTT on their pianos these days. It's the standard. You can also get if you can't be asked to download it, there's also OTT in Ableton. So if you go OTT multiband, click that on there. Pretty much the same sort of thing. But I think that the algorithm in this Exeter one's better. And lastly, we've got this side chain going to the kick, so it's just pumping it down a little bit so the kick can bounce through the mix. Secondly, piano, we've got this. So bound with that. Oh. Again, it's nice, just a little da-da-da-da. So the notes for this are just this. I have to zoom in. So quite basic. So start with a G, go into an A, a B, and an F. So it's a little climb and fall, sort of like an arpeggiator. And this works really well with the piano. So the piano notes are these. So what are we in? I think we're in D minor from memory. So D, potentially. I'd have to recheck. I can't really remember. I made this project about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, if you want to copy the chords, feel free. I will leave those for you there. Yeah, and the beauty, so if you listen to the pre-drop, It's all building. Silence. There's nothing there. So if we zoom out, I've cut. So this would be fully extended like that. Better example here, look. So all I've done with this is cut that out. Rather than moving it, I've cut out the first notes, so it's completely skipped. And then with these first notes, because they're not hitting, we've then got to drag them so it hits there rather than on the first note. It's really good. I've never actually seen this technique used before. I mean, I'm sure it's been used a couple of times on other tracks, but nothing I've seen or remade. Yeah, it's bloody good. I'll be using it in a lot of my other tracks. So I think a lot of the time we like move it, so we miss a beat, but we don't actually play it as is, if you know what I mean. So dragging and doing that technique we just did. And in terms of the space, we've cut out everything for that first hit. So yeah, really cool technique. We've then got the bass. Again, following the same thing, cut out the first note, but moved it. It's just a patch I've made in Serum. This will come in on my Patreon as well, in the sample pack. And all it is a saw wave with a filter cutting off the high frequencies and a bit of distortion, or a fair bit of distortion. And that's it. Just deep, punchy, getting sidechained to the kick. So pumping it a bit. Helping the kick to punch through. So next we will actually move down over here. We've got the sort of strings and the bells, okay? So before the second drop, we've got this string that comes in.
Do you come with me? Do you come with me?
The MIDI looks like this. So it's exactly the same as the bell. If you want to copy that.
Do you come?
Again, nice, catchy. Yeah, it's uprising. And it only comes in right, the only bit it's in is right at the end and in the second part of the drop, of the last drop. So yeah, it brings you into the feels, man. It brings you into the feels because it's not really heard earlier in the track. So as the track's starting to peter out and you're like, oh, is this still going on? It's like bring the strings in. It's like, whoa. So in terms of the preset, we click on browser, combi, click on strings, and the strings, this one here, click on that, and that's what you get. You get all these 4 strings that come up, and it sounds like this. So it's multiple string layers that makes it sound a lot fuller than it would if it was just one singular string. I've not done any effects because in the M1 we've got this exciter which I've rammed all the way to the 100%. Got this hall which is a reverb. This is again 26%. On the insert again we've got another exciter just to make it even more. And then this ensemble hall, adding a little bit more, and a stereo delay, adding some too. So that's it. Great. We've then got the bells. As I said, it's the same MIDI as the string, but I've extended it, so I've made them longer and overlap. Here that is. Again, this isn't exactly the same as the original. I find high frequencies harder to get the exact notes right, but this is pretty close. So, oh yeah, we're in F minor, F sharp minor, there you go. Okay, so what I've done here, I've got a collision, and the preset's called Street Bells. So if you just search on here, so collision is Ableton's sort of like marimba and like sort of analog, plucky, drummy, steel drum sort of stuff. It can all be made and like mallets in collision. It's quite good. Could it be better? Yes, but is it good? I'd say yes. I think Masamura used it a lot in his original productions. I think I've read somewhere, so it can't be that bad. I guess it's just how you process it. So we've got the street bell, just dragged it on here. Didn't really play around with anything. I've then got this EQ boosting at about 2.5 kilohertz, and this delay set to 1.1 without it. It's quite in your face. This helps make it more chimey. Yeah. Then we will move onto the drums. So for the kick, this is the main kick. So I've lowered some of the trans. If you're going to also hear, it's got a bit of a static fuzz on it, which the original does, but I've also made this even more dramatic by getting this. This is a kick 3K deep, so this comes with Ableton Studio if you've got it, so you just search for that, kick 3K deep. And essentially I've chosen this because it has a lot of noise in the upper half. This sort of just adds an atmosphere, so I've cut out all the low end. And you hear it, it's sort of like grainy, sort of retro-y, sort of sound like it's a tape machine. Yeah, so this really just adds to the aesthetic of the track. So I've laid that exactly the same MIDI as the main kick. Yeah, so that's it together. Cool. We've then got this clap, which is stolen from this loop. Yeah, that's pretty simple. Got this reverb on it that increases in the second breakdown. Subtle, but just adds a bit more dramatic to it. We've then got the hi-hat loop and clap loop, I just said. Pretty basic loop, you could use anything for this. I find it quite harsh, so I chuck this reverb on it, give it more space. I then got in the drums this is important. So if you listen to this, you think, what the fuck is that? But in context with the track, without it, it feels like it's like missing. If you listen carefully, you might need headphones on. Okay? So it's sort of like a shaker. And also white noise. So I'll tell you what it is. I've got the MIDI here. Oh. So I've got the MIDI here. This is just, I can't even remember what this was. I think a shaker loop, right? And then I've got the shaker loop and I've bounced it down to MIDI. Okay, here's what it is. Like, it was this percussion loop. And I've bounced that into MIDI. And then I've changed it to Serum. And we've got this atmosphere. So it's just basically just a white noise sample. But it's playing on the notes of the MIDI. So it's going cha-cha-cha-cha. Just the same pattern as the shaker. And then layered with the shaker. It really helps to fill out some of the ambience and like empty space in the high end. So this makes the mix, without it, this makes it seem a lot more professional sounding and just nice. So yeah, that's a great trick. I sort of just made that up, to be honest. But yeah, it works. We've then got obviously that shaker, which we've sort of been through. It's just a shaker loop from potentially Splice or something similar. Then the vocal itself is just ripped out the track.
Do you come with me?
Nice vocal. We've then got this riser. So there's actually the FX and the white noise are quite prominent in Nora and Pure's track. Today's standards, they'd be quite loud or considered quite loud, but yeah, it does sound quite good with the loud effects, but today they're sort of frowned upon. It's like, oh, it's cheating. I mean, sounds good to me.
Do you come with me? Do you come with me? Do you come with me?
Yeah, these are just standard white noise sweeps, and in the second drop there's an even fatter one, which is a bit overkill, but in the original it's overkill, and it's a fucking banger, so you can't argue with that. Well guys, thank you very much for watching, especially if you made it this far, me rambling on. I hope you enjoy this, or yeah, at least do something with it. Yeah, nice one. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.